I am so excited to welcome you not only to Jacksonville, but to the launching of the podcast called The Covenant, more specifically, the Sister Covenant. And yes, I did say sister. What is the covenant, the Sister Covenant? It is a circle of friends, my friends for 20, 30, 40 plus years, your friends, all of our friends, coming together in a safe space at a time such as this. We as women of color, we are counted on to nurture our families, our children, our significant others, our spouses, our community, our corporate boardrooms, and everything in between. But who fills our cup? I think about flying, and when we get ready to take off, what is said to us first? Put your oxygen mask on first before you can assist others. And that exactly is what the Sister Covenant is all about. A safe space to encourage, to listen, to cry a little, laugh a lot, but most important, to empower and to fill our cup. Morning. Great getting up Sunday morning. Welcome to the 14th episode of the Sister Covenant. It is such a glorious, glorious morning, and we are so excited to have you with us this morning. And as always, we are excited to talk about the Sister Covenant merchandise. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. I am super excited. I have gotten out a little bit now that I am safely vaccinated with my second vaccination, my husband and I both. And we were in Tallahassee this weekend, had an opportunity to hang out with some beautiful friends and got a chance to see the Sister Covenant all around the state of Florida. So you too can have your Sister Covenant merchandise by going to thesistercovenant.com, clicking on apparel, and you can purchase your beautiful merchandise. We are rounding out. We have been sowing a seed into Brown Girls in the Boardroom, and this is rounding out. And next month, we will have the announcement of how much the Sister Covenant is going to be donating to that very worthy organization. So it's not too late to give to Brown Girls in the Boardroom and to make your purchase of $100 or more so that you can personally give to that organization. Our giveaway contest. We are excited that you are a part of our Sister Covenant giveaway. And here, real quick, we know you know the rules, but here they are so you can share the rules. You must like and share our latest Facebook stream. So the one from today or the one from 2 weeks ago on the 4th. Subscribe to the Sister Covenant on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. Join our email list on our website. That is so very important, to join our email list so you can get special announcements. Then comment done on this image that is posted on Saturday before the Sunday stream. So now we have another winner for this podcast. Drum roll, please. Yay! Cecilia Jefferson. Cecilia is our Sister Covenant contest winner for this podcast. So we will be reaching out to Cecilia to get her lovely Sister Covenant mask. And lastly, please join our Sister Circle private group on Facebook. That's very easy. Open your Facebook page on your phone or your computer. Search the Sister Covenant. Find the groups tab. Click on the group titled Sister Circle and then click join. It is just that simple. We are excited because we are going to have another Sister Covenant partner that will join us here at the end of the podcast. So you don't want to miss our special announcement because the Sister Covenant has some bold moves that we are putting forth as we move into spring, as we are all living our best lives safely, and as we are sowing seeds into young people. So I am so excited. I had the opportunity earlier this week to sit down with some phenomenal first ladies and talk about some interesting conversation about how they are leading with excellence in their church, in their communities, in their families, and beyond. So I want to introduce our panel. First, Lady Kim McKissick. Lady Kim is the executive pastor of the Bethel Church. She's also a personal development coach, an entrepreneur, and much, much more. Next, Lady Nakia. Lady Nakia is the chief operating officer of the gathering at Forestville, which is in the Prince George County of Maryland. She's an entrepreneur, community advocate, and motivational speaker. Last but not least, Lady O. Lady O is the Women of Worship ministry leader at Elizabeth Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia. She is also an entrepreneur and a software engineer by trade. I am excited about our conversation this week, and I am excited to share it with you now. Hello, ladies. Hello there. Welcome to the Sister Covenant. Oh, I am so excited to talk with you all this morning. How's everybody?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Lady Kim. Hello, Lady O.
Hello, I'm doing awesome.
Awesome. And Lady Nakia, how are you?
I have my cape on today. I am feeling great.
Awesome. You always have your cape on. Well, listen, ladies, it is just my honor and privilege to welcome you all to the Sister Covenant. So, we have read your bios and they are all very, very impressive. They will live on the Sister Covenant website. But why don't we get started? You all are all phenomenal women. You are entrepreneurs, you're authors, you have been in corporate America. You are leading political movements in this country. Tell us a little bit about who we see before us right now. Tell us about your journeys. And I'll start with you, Lady Nakia.
Again, happy Sunday. It's great to be before you. The hardest thing to do is to describe yourself. So I'll say this. I am a trailblazer. I am one who's not afraid to be first. I am the one that is living proof that there's no such thing as perfection, that the flaws and the that I've made in life makes me perfectly imperfect. And I believe that I am the light to somebody's answer because flawed people know the way out. And one thing that I believe in this time, living through days we could have never imagined, I'm a great comeback story. The tenacity of the grace on my life to win has been challenged, and it has shown me that God created, I am God's masterpiece, and I was not a mistake. And the things that He put in me, He prepared for such a time as this. I'm honored to be a wife to an amazing man. I could say that because we're having a great day today. Had you asked me 2 days ago, I don't know what I would have said. I have the honor of being married to an amazing man, and together we're living proof that God can, if He can use us, He can use anybody.
That is amazing. Wow. That's right, Lady Kim. Wow. Wow. So we're going to get back and unpack a lot of what you said. So, Lady O, who are you? Tell us about your journey to get where you are right now.
So, I'm a native of Louisiana, and I am the youngest of two. I have an older brother, and moved to Atlanta. It was sort of like a different type of journey. I left Grambling. I'm a HBCU grad of two HBCUs, actually, Grambling State University and Southern A&M College. But in between that, I worked for the CIA as a software engineer, and then moved to Philly and worked at Merck and Company. And then my journey ended me here in Atlanta. And my mom was like, listen, I'm not helping you move another time. Like, I'm going to put an ad in the paper and tell them husband wanted, because you got to sit down somewhere. So I'm that adventurous one, the one that just wants to get out and see the world and do, any and all things. And so ended up in Atlanta and married the love of my life. And together we have three children, one boy and two daughters. And that has been a journey, but it's been a fun journey. And so I am no longer a software engineer, but I am. I have found my calling after 5 years of our marriage. We've been married 17 years, but I found my calling that was just to empower and educate and edify women. And so it took me a while. I wrestled with God, but once you have a passion and you know what that is, you eat, live, breathe, and move in it, and He gives you the grace to do it. And so for that, I'm forever grateful. And so that's my journey to where I am this given day.
Lady Kim, I had to leave you for last. Hello, ladies. Hello, hello, hello there. Welcome to the Sister Covenant.
Right.
The best for last. Lady Kim, tell us about your journey. I've watched your journey, so I want to see if my notes compare with yours.
Oh, I don't know, Sister Pat. Good Lord, there's a lot to share, but my 3-second elevator pitch is going to be: I'm a servant, I'm an influencer, I'm a sister, and I'm a friend. God is just so amazing to be walking with me, this wretch undone, through my life. I can say now of 52 years, and it's just been so overwhelming, but it's been amazing. Just seeing myself evolve over the years, and that's a good thing. We want to be able to see ourselves and acknowledge how much we've grown in our stages of life. And so I'm just so thankful to be here on this platform, sharing with these awesome ladies that God has placed in my life at various times when I didn't realize I needed them, but they're just such a blessing to me. And so to be pastoring in ministry with my husband, Bishop Rudolph McKissick, who I've been married to for 29 years. We have the Trinity, Jocelyn, Janae, and Joshua, 3 adult kids. But anyway, it's all good. I'm glad they are out on their own. They're not out of my pocket, but they're out on their own doing their thing. And so this has just been such a blessing to me. And so just to see how God moves, what he does, what he can do through you and with you, if you allow him to work and move in your life. 2-time graduate of an HBCU, Virginia Union University. Go Panthers! And so going back to school after being out of over 25 years, going back to school to get another degree, being in school, reading a book. It was great though, and it's what I needed. And so I'm glad to be where I am. It's been a good thing.
So, ladies, you all are first ladies. You got that in common. You all are advocates for your various communities that you serve. You all support your husbands. You're all family women, but you all lead, and you don't only lead in your church. You lead outside of your church. You are phenomenal women in your own right. Certainly, your husbands are amazing, but you all are phenomenal. So tell us about that. We live in 2021, so I would like to believe that, you know, this is the year of the woman, and you guys are supported by everybody, and everybody embraces all of your voice, and they take you for. Is that true? Tell us about that. Anybody that wants to answer that question first, talk to us about where you find yourself with all of what it is you do and try to do.
I'm going to say, I don't know if anyone else agrees. I think because our ministries, where there are some similarities, there are some differences, and our husbands allow the presence of a woman to be on a platform. They don't hold back. They embrace the ministry of women. And in this climate that we're in now, and I do believe it is the year of the woman, we are still oppressed and suppressed in our voice, especially in the church. A lot of denominations still are not allowing women to have that freedom to speak, not only sit on the pulpit, but to come up on that platform and share. And so I think the mold is gently being broken to embrace women being on that platform, because we do have a voice. We do have something to say. We are inspirational. We do make impact. And it's the mothers that are the backbone of the community. It's the women that are the backbone of the community, I should say. And so men trying to find a place for us without their ego being tainted is a hard thing for them to do. But I'm going to let someone else interject. I just wanted to open that up for some conversation, because this is where we are. Even still yet, I look at the AME church, they still only have one female bishop who is leading. And so they have other bishops, but Vashti McKenzie has held it down for years. And so we're looking at an institution that still has not openly embraced the female preacher.
That's good, Lady Kim. And I look at it as if the Bible says first comes natural. when I look and I see that there is an African American female that is holding the second highest office of the land, I say that we can be absolutely anything. That when all life starts with us, we give birth to answers, we give birth to actual beings, and that as women, we are the only detail oriented creature out here. Not only do we have the capacity to be a visionary, we also have the capacity to carry it to pass. So while this, I believe that I've always been a strong, confident Black woman. I do believe it is our time. I do believe that we're answering the call. We are shattering ceilings. I believe that we are changing the trajectory of what the globe looks like. When I think about the elections of 2020, us African American women, we held it down. It was because of us. It was because of our tenacity, our courage to be first, our time to say our voices are heard, our voices are loud, our voices are necessary. And listen, the church has no other they don't have any other choice but to catch up, because the world is going to surpass us if they do not. Women are extraordinary beings. And if they do not place us in the places where God is allowing us to go, let me tell you something, they're going to miss out on the best thing that ever happened to the church, because us women, we are here. We ain't going nowhere. And we just getting started.
You're making me tired just watching you with the energy that you have. Very good. Awesome. Lady Oliver, what do you want to weigh in on this conversation?
I agree with everything that they said. And even like Nakia said, to try not to put us in the position where God will have us go, whether they do or not, you have walked long enough with God to know He's going to put you there. Like I'm in Georgia, and, we fought tooth and nail for Stacey Abrams. And, what happened with that? But then she shifted and changed the nation. And so that speaks to the volume and to the power that if God be for you, it matters not, the gender. He is going to do and still get His perfect work done. And so, there are still those, like we talked about earlier, where they have, different cultures, right? And so, but slowly and gradually the culture is shifting and changing, because you cannot deny the grace that's on someone's life, whether it be male or female. And so, I think the church is going to slowly, as they are now, it's going to come to a point where this is no longer a conversation. It just is, right? Just as there are pastors and women, men, there will be women, and that's, the end of the story, because the Lord has said so.
Come on, evangelist.
That's the end of the story. That is the end of the story. She drops her mic and puts her mute button on.
So, ladies, so you're leading in the church and you're leading outside of the church. How do I want to ask this question? How are you being embraced within your congregations? And you said something, Lady Kim. You're a pastor of a mega church here in Jacksonville, Florida. How are you being received, not just within your own congregation, but in pastoral church circles?
I think, of course, it's the teaching. People have to be taught. Whenever there's a shift, there's teaching on this biblical. Who saw Jesus first? It was the women. But it's a teaching that goes along. And of course, with my sisters here who husbands walk heavy in integrity with the word, it has to be taught in order for people to embrace. And then I just think the times call for it. The pandemic, the things that we're seeing racially, prison pipeline, all of the things that are happening now, our brown and black boys being murdered on camera unjustly, things that are happening, they need hope. And so when we are teaching and preaching and embracing the issues that we're seeing, they can embrace and understand and accept a role that the pastor, the under shepherd, the bishop pushes us out in. And so my role as a pastoral position in my church allows me the voice that people will embrace because it's been taught in our church. And so I think that also helps too when it's taught.
So
That's very good. That's excellent, Lady Kim.
go ahead. Go ahead,
I was just
lady.
going to echo the sentiments of her. I believe that our husbands are instrumental in how the world receives us. If our husbands are open and non-negotiable about what it is they feel of who we are and whose we are, I believe that it will open the door for others to receive us, because our husbands, my husband, Bishop Donald Wright, shout out to him, um, they're great generals in our area, and they're mighty men in the circles that they travel in, and how they introduce us, how they handle us, how they speak of us will in return will be how people receive us. So it's very instrumental for our husbands to pave the way for the respect that we receive, as opposed to us going before our husbands, fighting for something that we don't have to fight for. So I just appreciate Bishop McKissick and Bishop Wright for how they opened up the door. At every elevation service that Pastor McKissick had, I was there to celebrate her. While I don't carry a title in the church, thank you, Jesus, glory to God, I just want to be a wife. I do carry a title in my community. I'm the chair of the Faith-Based Advisory Board for Prince George's County. I have political aspirations. And again, while I don't carry a certain title in the church, outside of the church, there is a level of power and authority that I have, that in both areas I feel I'm well received at home and out in the community.
So what I hear you saying is you teach what you allow. And so your husbands go before you and you honor that, but they paved that path. So people respect you when you enter a room. Am I fair?
Absolutely.
Very good. Perfect. Perfect. You touched on something, Lady Nakia, political arena. We've always been taught, or we've heard, can't mix. You know, there's certain taboos in the church. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't do certain things from the pulpit. So in your bio, very involved, very community advocate involved, politics being one. And we all know politics are involved in everything, even the church. But how do you navigate that? How do you keep the two separate yet merged together? Because back in the day, we knew if something was going on, it was going to go down at Bethel here in Jacksonville. The conversation was going to happen in the community church. How do you balance that?
So I say that first, it starts with the foundation. Your church is a nonprofit entity. It does not have to be your 501c3. I would never advise a church to be a 501c3. I would advise a church to set up a separate 501c3. With that being said, if you're properly set up as a pastor, you are able to talk about a candidate in your pulpit, because the one thing that they always say is, if you endorse a candidate, you are in jeopardy of losing your 501c3. Well, my church doesn't have a 501c3, but this organization does. And under this organization, I did not endorse a candidate. But let me just also say that it's only been one time in history where it was even attempted that the IRS came after anyone for endorsing a candidate. And the executive order was written under the past administration that gave a little leeway for that. But be that as it may, what if your church is your 501c3? I will say this, that for a long time, churches have been the strong anchors in the community, and we have to have a seat at the table when it comes to the politicians that rule the land that we have spiritual governance over. So what I will say to you is, you can stand in your pulpit and say, I am going to the ballot. I am going to vote on this day, and I am supporting this candidate because That is not an endorsement. That is just you're saying what it is that you're going to do. But I think that religious leaders have to get involved, because we should be able to have a seat at the table when laws are passed and politicians are elected. They tell us we don't pay taxes, but let me tell you what we do. We do have members of our congregation that do pay taxes. We do pay employee taxes, and we offer programs that offset the budget of whatever county and state we live in.
Amen.
And then also too, we have to remember Jesus was political. So this is nothing new. They would love to keep it separate, and that's how they oppress us and keep us in a certain box. But Jesus was political, and he dined with the tax collectors. And so this is in our DNA. This is something we've been doing since the beginning of time. And so just like my Lord and Savior, just like Jesus, we've got to take a stand politically in our communities. And I'm with Lady Nakia. You're right. You got to have your stuff in order so you're able to say, thus saith the Lord, and help the people. People need help. And that's why we're here. The church is the most important entity that we have. And so saying that, we've always been political because Jesus was political.
And Lady O, you kind of went there with Georgia. I mean, who expected Georgia to perform in some of the ways in which Georgia performed? And then when we as a country rallied behind not just Georgia, but electing 2 senators from the state of Georgia, one of which was a pastor of a very prominent church in Atlanta.
Absolutely. And, watching the ads and watching them take, some of his sermons out of context, it was mind boggling to see that you would actually try to use the word of God, switch it and flip it to benefit yourself, when in actuality, that is not what he was saying. But, when you sit here and our congregants look to, the leadership, because a lot of us, to be honest with you, don't believe our vote matters. They don't believe it counts. But when they hear it from us, now they see, and now they know, because we have made a difference. We have shifted, the culture. And my husband is one that will stand, and, there are those that will pass through, to speak to the congregation. But his main thing is you must vote. Now, what, the type of world that we live in. And if you want to see something change, then you have to make a change. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And so you've not voted all this time. And so nothing has changed. So now we're at this point where, okay, so now let's vote and let's make change. And we have made significant change. And leeway, we always say now in hindsight, that was the best thing that could have happened for Stacey, for her to lose that governorship. They did not know. Had they known, they would have given her that governor, not given it. She would have earned her right to be governor of the state of Georgia. But they took it, and the Lord flipped it. And now, hindsight, they wish she was governor of the state of Georgia at this day, on this day. Yes, ma'am.
So back in the day, to your point, the church was the safe haven. The church was the place we knew we could rally, and we could go, and we could have the conversations that needed, the strategic conversations that needed to happen in order for us to plan and mobilize. And so why should we allow that voice to be taken away from us? So I thank you. I thank Lady Kim, because we've been strong here in Florida. We're trying to keep up with Georgia and obviously the Maryland area that you ladies come from. But in Florida, we know we have work to do, and we understand that we're stronger together to get that done. So Lady O, you talked about it in your intro. You are a software engineer by trade. You're a bad girl. You're a bad girl. So talk to us about that. You had your career.
Wait, for the CIA. Did you see that part? The CIA.
Yeah. No. Have you read the bio? There's several organizations.
I was about to cover
CIA is one of them. So you tell us about that. So you are now an entrepreneur, and I want to hear all about that. But tell us about that piece of your life where you were that, and it has brought you to where you are today. And how are you bringing all of your whole self to your role?
So being a software engineer is what I went to school for, and I actually worked in that field for several years. And of course, when I moved to Atlanta, I did work in that area again. But then I met well, he's my husband now, but at the time he was my fiance. And, you know, at that moment in time, he was traveling a lot. And so his whole piece was, I want you to travel with me, and I have a problem with you asking to take time off. So now I am an independent person. I have taken care of myself as long as I can remember, especially once I graduated college. I was like on my own, doing my own thing. And to just, so that's another learning experience for somebody else, to give up a little portion of that independence. So, but my work experience, I loved what I did. And, to come from doing what you love to now stepping into something that is so dramatically different is a scary thing. But that's where my faith and my prayer kicked in. I was like, Lord, if this man starts to trip and act crazy and I let go of my job, and I just moved to Atlanta, and that's another story. Craig and I met in October of 2003, and we were married October 2004. So that's another story in and of itself. But all of that, has allowed me to build my faith as it relates to trusting God, because I didn't know what this journey was going to be like. I didn't know what the path was going to be. I didn't know what I should be doing. And I also said in my bio, or when we were talking, it took me 5 years to figure out what I wanted to do in the church. Because when we first started dating, I was like, tell me what you want me to do, because I do not sing. I do not play the piano. I do not like to speak in front of crowds, and I do not preach. I do not teach. Where do I fit? And he just told me, you take care of home and I'll take care of the church. And for 5 years, he allowed me to embrace this new journey that I had become, and allowed me to spend the time with God that I needed to figure out what my calling was. Like, what did the Lord expect for me to do? And I think he also stated, as Nakia and Kim both stated, he actually put the foundation in place for me to walk in my purpose, but I had to find it first. And so he took away all the expectations of the congregation. He didn't allow them to put any expectations on me, and set it up on the front end. And so that way, there was no conflict as to me trying to do what they wanted me to do. It was what the Lord had called me to do. And just coming in, I didn't know that. But now I'm thriving and striving, with the women. Our women's ministry is phenomenal. And we can't even describe how it got to this point, except by the grace of God.
So, ladies, all of you weigh in on this. And you just said it, Lady O. People try to put you in a box.
Oh, yeah.
So, Lady Kim, how did you react? How do you react to that, where you should just be this, or you should just act this way? We've heard some headlines recently, even in other countries, where the British wants to be a certain way. How do you react to that? How do you step out? And you're gracious, I'm sure, but tell us, how do you manage that expectation?
Well, it's their expectation, but I do what God's expectation tells me to do. And so my ministry is my husband. And so whenever I serve my husband, it meets the needs of the people, and prayerfully their expectation. And, there's been this long standing thing about what people feel the pastor's wife, the role of the pastor's wife should be. And so some succumb to that, but I'm doing what the Lord told me to do, and I'm the helpmeet. So my husband is my ministry. So whatever I do for my husband meets the needs of the people, and those who you're always going to have a remnant who is not with that, and they still feel that your role should be one thing. They'll all change over after a while and by, because I'm not going to be the cookie cutter person that they think I should be, because I'm doing what thus saith the Lord. And so, I think it's important whether you grow into, and when I say grow into, whether you marry someone that is already in the pastorate or in ministry, or if it happens after the fact. A lot of women struggle, but I think it takes a conversation. What is expected of me? What is required of me in this ministry as you see fit? As you are the visionary, where do you see me working? Like Lady Oliver just said, help me to help you. And I want to be in compliance. He is my authority, so I want to be in right relationship. I want to do the things that you want to see me do, and I want to be in partnership with you, not just in a title, but I am in partnership with him. And so I serve him. And so when I serve him, I serve the ministry. And if he asks me to serve in a certain capacity, then of course I pray about it, and then I step up. But I just believe, I think the shifting happens when we are ministering to our husbands as we are required to do, which is we are a helpmeet.
And you currently mentor first ladies, right? Why did you feel it important that you take on that role?
Do not get Lady Nakia started, because when I tell you,
Because let me tell you, I'm going to answer that question for you. I'm sorry, I'm breaking protocol. When I I did not grow up in church, and I love Jesus. I love him so very much. But when I first got in, married my husband and got in a room with first ladies, I was like, what? These women are miserable and they are mean, and this is ridiculous. And I'm not doing this. I won't ever be in the company of this person anymore or that person anymore. Are you serious? I could not believe that the people that were supposed to love God were that, tight and nasty. And I was just like, this is not how you live. God is love. God is freedom. And I was just like, I will never fit in. And so this is how Lady Kim and I met, because I don't hold my tongue. And I was like, what is wrong with these women? Is this what y'all do? And Kim got me all the way together. But I came in the circle. I broke every rule that there was to break. I got checked publicly. But listen, I came back and said, why do you live this way? You are dying from the inside out. One person hurt you, but God did not. You have to be able to be who God called you to be freely, and stop thinking everybody is not out to hurt you. Everybody does not want your husband. Everybody does not want your dream. Let them walk in your shoes for 2 hours. I promise you, they'll give your dream back. And you have to do what it is that you were called to do in order to be happy. Like, the joy of the Lord is his strength. I understand that. But happiness and joy are not the same thing. And I refuse to be in church every Sunday and be miserable. I'd rather be out in the world and enjoy myself than to go to hell from the pulpit. So I just decided that, listen, I am going to be happy. I am going to be me unapologetically, and I'm going to take you along during the ride. I hope I don't offend you when I say this, Pam, Pat, but you'll understand this. I'm going to love the hell out of you, because that right there is bondage, and nobody should live in bondage.
That's
so
right.
Kim is helping people come out of their shell, so they don't have to live in bondage.
But that, it's funny. She said it so eloquently. Lord bless her heart. To your question, Pat, listen. You see why these are my girlfriends. How about that? But to what your question asked, I see so many first ladies struggle because they're trying to meet the expectation of the people instead of being the helpmeet for their husband. And so my ministry is my husband. However God sees fit to use my gifts and talents in other measures, is still for my husband and I to sit down and decide and figure out. When he asked me to be praise and worship leader, I was like, no, excuse me, I'm getting all kind of stuff. I told him no way, but he needed me to serve in that capacity, so I stepped up. And so once again, my heart is women. My ministry is women. I was talking to someone earlier, and I know God ordained me to help women. He did it through Mary Kay when I stepped into Mary Kay, which is something I didn't want to do. It's funny how the things that we're supposed to do, we really don't want to do. And so I just knew in that moment that God led me to women, to be a help to women, to build women, to help them out. So to answer that question, so many women have their lives planned out, but then when they're called to ministry with their husband, it becomes this whole ugly and unwanted place because of the congregation's expectations that they're trying to meet. So I just try to redirect them in a different way, to think about it in a different way, so they can enjoy their ministry, they can enjoy their marriage, and it doesn't lead to a path of destruction. And so that, to answer, hopefully that answered your question. I think we have to look at our position and our place in a different view and in a different light. And we're helpmeets to our husbands. So our ministry is, our husbands are our ministry.
She has the wrong demographic, though. She needs to come up to the 50 and 60-year-olds because they are struggling the most. So, but I'm letting God say it. I'm not going to say it again. Hopefully he's using me right now.
And that's funny because I have had, you know, some women ask, and for some reason it's the 40 and under, because I don't feel right now this time that I am the voice for the 50 and older, because they think they know everything. They don't want to listen. They've been in it for so long. So, not all of them, because you do have some 40, 50, and 60-year-old women who are coming into this arena because their husbands were called at this point in their lives. So I guess God will temper me off, if that's his will, to, you know, be a blessing to them.
So that's a perfect segue, really. So, and you kind of referenced this earlier, Lady O. Vice President Harris has said openly she may be the first woman and the first woman of color in her role, but she will not be the last. You all are ladies that are leading with class and sass. Class and sass. How are you ensuring? I know what you're doing, Lady Kim, with mentoring those 40 and under, but what else? What are you doing to ensure that you're not the last, that others come behind you, that they are too confident, that they too find their voices, and they're not put in a box of where the congregation, where man or where woman, because we know we can sometimes be our worst critics, other women. How are you ensuring that to be the case as we move forward?
You know, first, those that are in our congregation know, if they've been around for any length of time, they know that I have been authentically me. To be other than that would be, I wouldn't be comfortable in where I am as it relates to the women's ministry. You know, so that's number one. Always be and embrace you. And so my prayer is that me walking in my authenticity also gives someone else that boldness to walk in theirs, because there's nobody else like you, and what God has assigned for you to do, nobody else can do it. And so I will scream that from the mountaintop, like, you have to do you and trust what he's put in you to do it. And so I also, you know, stress to my girls, like, it's okay to be you, right? It's okay to do what it is that you like to do. You don't have to fit in. And from day one, you know, when I met my husband, he has allowed me to be me. I don't have to force it. I don't have to try to grab for it, fight for it. You know, I am able to embrace who I am. And so that's the, you know, the main thing that I encourage all of those around us. And then also with our women's ministry, you said it, you know, we're our worst critics. And sometimes, and like Nakia said, not just first ladies are mean and nasty, like sometimes women in general are just mean and nasty. And so in our women's ministry, I try to cultivate an environment where we celebrate one another. We empower one another. We, you know, if one win, we all wins. There's, just because someone else, you know, has won or has made it, that doesn't take away from the fact that you're yet to get there, right? So we all celebrate. And that's the one thing that I could not stand. So when I took over the women's ministry, I was like, okay, so the culture is we don't have this crap mentality. We don't pull each other down. We actually get underneath and help lift. We lift, or, you know, we pull as we rise. And so that's the one thing that I pray, you know, once I'm no longer there, that they keep that same mentality, you know, that same culture of let's help one another, because we get further together.
That's right. Very good.
That is so good. Can I just add one thing to that? That's so good. I always keep this hashtag in front of me. Hashtag legacy matters. I started from zero. My parents did the best they could with what they had. However, it left me with nothing. I started from a place of zero, and it has been my motto that my children and my children's children won't start from zero. We waste vital years of our life trying to get what others of other predominant cultures is handed to them. So I don't want my kids to waste the most vital years of their life when I can just pass the mantle on to them so they won't have to fight for everything. Hashtag legacy matters is my motto.
Awesome. 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 You got your doctorate degree over the last few years, Lady Nakia. Why did you feel that important to get your doctorate degree?
Well, I will have to say this. My doctorate is honorary. A young lady that I've worked with in the community, I have been a community advocate all my life. And one lady that I've been in the trenches with said that you've already earned your doctorate from the work that you've done. You have proven work. You've done your own dissertation. You've saved lives. And I want to present you with this opportunity. So my doctorate is honorary, and some people will not hold the honorary doctorate in the same regard, but I promise you that the footprints of my life said that I worked just as hard as a student loan that you're trying to pay off. So I was extremely honored, because one of the greatest things that you can do is be in the trenches and not looking for your name to be called, and someone a ram in the bush comes to see you and say, I see you, and I want to honor the works that you've done.
That is amazing. I think that's everything. As the young people say, that's just everything. That's just everything, everything. So ladies, as we wind down our conversation, you have the S. I know, you got to come back though. You got to come back. You got to promise you're coming back. So you all wear the S on your chest. You all do a million things. As you've already said, you nurture your communities, you nurture your church, your husband, your families. Who nurtures you? How do you fill your cup? What do you do? Or who or how do you balance it all and make sure you're whole at the end of the day?
Lay around and read mindless smut. No, actually, hey, it's all good. I, I feel in this self-care environment now, so much going on. I think the pandemic has really put a chokehold on our priorities. God needed to slow us down to see what was really important. And so self-care is something that we desperately needed, but we never did. And so just to make sure that you're balancing out your ministry with your misery, just sit down and not do anything for a minute. It doesn't always have to be a power-packed day. Just power down and don't do anything. Vegetate, just be a couch potato. Just unplug from the noise of the world. We are pulled in so many different directions. Being a wife, being a mother, a community activist, a ministry leader, all these other things, a sister, a daughter, and aunt, all of these things pull at us so much. And so we have to make sure we take time. Now, I'm gonna tell y'all, I'm always at the house. People try to make me be this place and that place. I'm at my house because I am not moving or being somewhere that's going to take my peace and my position and my personality and get me off track.
I can say amen, because I've been one of those people to try to get you out.
Listen, but I in doing what we want to do and being involved and engaged, it doesn't mean that we have to be the busy bee, but it just means that you take on what you feel you can handle and leave the rest to someone else. You can't do everything. My husband said it Sunday, you can't do everything, but you can do something. And so just see where you fit in, see what you can be involved in, and then leave the rest up to somebody else.
I agree with that. Do nothing. But and then I think too, for balance, we sort of speak about that at times, because we think that when we say balance, everything is like leveled out. And so for me, my balance is not that it's leveled out. It's like, what do I prioritize for a particular season or even a particular day if you want to, or, you know, what's going throughout this week? Because sometimes we will run ourselves ragged and be that busy bee if we're trying to do this. You know, if we're trying to make everything just on this mantle that, you know, if you shift, if it's some days it's going to be like this, you know, and some days it'll be like this, and that's okay. You prioritize what needs to get done, or at least that's how I do it. And that's how I can keep my sanity at times. And then there are times where stuff just falls all everywhere and you're trying to just juggle. And so, you know, when you're a mom, like I have a 2nd grader and a 9th grader, but when they were younger, flexibility, like this little rubber band that I have on now, you know, that you have to have that mentality of being flexible, because you will run yourself crazy. And like Nakia said in her opening, you know, you said she said she's unperfectly perfect. And so, you know, we have to be okay with that, you know. And so when we give ourselves space for grace, it's just, you know, it's amazing how that alone can give you some added peace and self-care. So that's how I look at, you know, trying to refill my cup, doing it that way.
That is great. And for me, I have accountability circles. So in every area of my life, I have a different proven accountability circle. If for my first ladies, you know, Lady Kim McKissick, I will call her, and she's a place where I can have unedited thoughts. I can just speak whatever it is that I'm feeling at that time without being judged. I have a workout group, and they are my accountability for that. I have my girls, and I can be Nakia with my girls and feel safe. So one of the things that's extremely vital is that you can have safe places. One thing my husband has said to me, he said, "What's the definition of a friend?" The definition of a friend is that when they walk in a room, you don't have to stop doing what it is that you're doing. And I'm grateful that God gave me some friends, because my friends are the ones that pour back at me. They won't let me get comfortable, because comfort is the enemy to greatness. They'll keep pushing me. And because of them, Lady McKissick says this all the time. She reminds me of this scripture: iron sharpens iron. And I'm surrounded by irons. Therefore, I am never going to be dull.
This is a sisterhood in and of itself. I love it. And I am going to pray for all of you that you continue to have this ministry among you, but prayerfully other women, whether they're first ladies or not, can see the light that you guys shine so brightly. You are truly ladies that lead with class, grace, and a whole bunch of sass. So thank you for honoring the Sister Covenant today, this morning. Thank you.
And I want to say thank you too for having me.
Thank you for being who you are. Thank you.
Yes,
So
thank you.
This was
Bye.
awesome, ladies. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Wow. That was awesome.
Oh my goodness, I am so proud. I'm so proud of those beautiful women. They are truly first ladies who lead with as excellent role models, Pat.
That is right. I was in awe of them, and they're just real. I think a lot of times in churches and especially in large congregations, and all of those first ladies have the opportunity to impact large congregations, you feel like you can't touch them. They're not real people. They're put up on a pedestal, but they're just women
Right.
women with purpose. And that's what was so evident in that conversation. They're purposed women of God, but they have a lot of dimensions to them. They're not monolithic. They're not just first ladies. That's not big. That is
Right.
big. That is big. But I want to talk to you a little bit, my sister. So you are a chaplain.
Mhm.
You're a preacher's kid. I want to talk a little bit later in the after conversation about the P kid thing. But tell me, how is being a chaplain and being a pastor different?
Okay, well, chaplains and pastors are very similar in their roles and functions. So similar to a pastor, Chaplains also lead worship services. We provide sacraments. We also, celebrate religious rites such as officiating weddings and funerals. So there are a lot of functions where chaplains and pastors overlap, and we do complement each other. But one of the strategic things about chaplains is we serve in institutions such as airports, military chaplains. Chaplains also serve in schools, hospitals, which I currently serve in, whereas the pastors are overseers of their local congregations.
So, how are you received? We talked about leading with excellence and women's voices. How are you received in this space? I know that you work in some non-traditional settings.
Well, I think COVID-19 has taught us all a lot and shown us the value of, pastoral care, spiritual care, not only in the church, but outside of the church. So when we went on lockdown and everything was closed, like even pastors were unable to go into hospitals. So that's one of the benefits of a chaplain serving in this role with an institution, because we provide that spiritual care within our facilities. But arriving into this space was not always easy. When I was ordained in ministry, I was ordained by a bishop who did receive me. And I actually had a conversation with your pastor, Bishop McKissick, because my father is also a Baptist pastor down in South Florida. But one of the things I appreciate about men like Dr. and Bishop McKissick is that he celebrates and affirms women in ministry. He truly does. And there are still men who do not receive or welcome women in ministry. Even when I went through my formation and training in clinical pastoral education, I was the only woman in my cohort. And those men did give me the side eye because some of them did not think that I should be there alongside with them. However, I am the firm believer that there is no place that women should not be, whether it's the top position in our country or in any type of leadership, ministry, governmental role. There's no place that women should not be. And I will also say that I have appreciated the male mentors who have been strategic in my life. For example, like I mentioned, my father, who is a senior pastor, what he did for me, without really knowing, he brought me into spaces where it was only men. Like as a child, he would take me into the meetings where it was just the pastors. I was the only little girl there. He would take me when he served in the prison ministry. I would go with him. So he was my first kind of mentor and role model in this space.
I think it's so important and that's why we've spent a lot of time in March, especially letting our audience, certainly the youngins, the 30-year-olds and younger, but as was said in the last conversation, your 40, 50, 60-year-olds, as we're starting our second act, we have to see what it is we can be. And your father did you a great service, showing you belong. You deserve to be here. It's okay to be in this conversation and listen so you can learn. Listen so you can learn. Well, we're going to talk on the other side because I do want to hear about that peak kid thing because I know sometimes that gets a bad rap. But we're running a little long, and I appreciate our audience hanging in with us during some of our technical challenges this morning. Our young people behind the scenes who make us look good rock. They rock because they rebounded. Yes. They rebounded well. But our last person that has just dropped in this morning, and I so appreciate her, a dear friend of mine, Gwen Hewitt. Gwen is the Area Development Director with the United Negro College Fund, UNCF, and she's dropping by really quick this morning because she's going to come back in May and talk more to us about the importance of UNCF. But we at Sister Covenant are going to venture into a partnership with UNCF because a mind is truly a terrible thing to waste. And at this point in time, in this season of COVID, we know when America catches a cold, Black America catches the COVID-19. So Gwen, come into the studio and talk with us this morning. Good morning, Gwen.
Hi, Gwen. You're on mute.
There, can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. How are you this morning? You look beautiful.
Thank you. I am wonderful. I am inspired. I am encouraged. This has been a phenomenal, as most of your sessions are, but this has been phenomenal just to encourage us as women, and to your point, to get to know women as women and not necessarily in the roles or the titles that they bear. So this has been really encouraging. So thank you, Pat. Of course, as always, my dear friend, I am so very, very honored to be on this phenomenal show this morning. I won't be long, which Pat probably knows is might be a little hard, but I'm going to try and be swift this morning with everything that I want to share. As you already noted, I am the area director for UNCF, and most people probably already know about UNCF and what we do. We are the nation's oldest and most effective organization for moving students, minority students, to and through college. We do this in a couple of different ways. First and foremost, most of the dollars that you give go directly to support scholarships. That's the business we are in, and that's what we do. And we're second only to the US government in terms of the number of dollars that actually go to students for scholarships. Secondly, we support HBCUs. We do this, we have for more than 77 years been supporting UNCF member schools and HBCUs with direct funds. We do that so that they are able to build capacity, particularly when we think about an age of technology, as well as to make capital improvements. Most of our HBCU schools are more than 100 years old, and most of them do not have the funds to be able to improve their facilities and compete with other schools. So those are things that we do. And for the most part, I know your audience probably is very familiar with that. However, what you may not know is over the course of the last few years, many of our schools, and they say a study done in 2018, 34% of all students experience homelessness at some point during their college career. About every week or every other week, there is a student who goes without lunch or food. Students report on the average 3 to 4 days a month when they do not receive food. And why? So yes, we give scholarships and yes, we support students. But if you can remember being in college, what you will remember is while everything was optional, or not everything was optional, one of the things that you could opt out of was the food plan. So for many students who are already challenged financially, they decide to opt out of a food plan. Or if they do get one, it's very small. Well, of course, COVID-19 revealed many disparities within our community: lack of food, lack of housing, and lack of basic technology. And of course, as Pat indicated, when America sneezes, we get COVID-19. And so our students found themselves last year, when you and I were searching madly for Lysol and hand sanitizers and toilet paper, my phone started to ring because I had students who needed $50, $75, $150 for some basic things. They weren't worried about Lysol or hand sanitizer. They needed $50 for the bus to get from school home. They needed $150 to perhaps buy 2 tires to go on an old car, so once again, they could transport themselves home. Yet there's a small percentage of our students who would not go home. They did not come from homes where they felt they would be able to successfully continue their education. Remember, UNCF students are generally first-generation students. They often in high school qualified for free or reduced lunch. Going home for many of our students was not an option. It just simply was not the place that they felt they could successfully complete their education. So they did what students refer to as couch surfing. From one student's house to another student, they moved around, because when the dorms closed, they were virtually homeless. In addition to that, they also lost their source. Even if they had only had lunch in the cafeteria, they lost that opportunity for where they received their food. Most of them worked on campus or in nearby businesses on campus, which we all know closed, particularly kinds of places that our students worked at. So that being said, they started to call us so that they could meet their basic needs. They are homeless, they lack food insecurity, they don't have $150 for a tablet so that they continue their studies, because they use the technology center or the computer lab at school in order to complete. They were often discouraged about going home because that may or may not have been a stable environment where they were certain they would have electricity, let alone broadband. So when we think about supporting our students, and we do, we work very diligently to make sure that when you write those big checks with lots of zeros, that our students are getting scholarships. We fund over $5 billion in scholarships over the course of the last 77 years. And annually, we give about 100 million, although this year we will do better, students scholarships. However, these needs, these basic needs of food, of housing, sometimes even of clothing, is a need that we have developed in what we call our Emergency Student Assistance Fund. This fund is the fund where students go to say, I need $75 to make sure that the electricity stays on. I need $50 to make sure that I can eat lunch for the next week. Or I need $100 to make sure that I can have food and supplies for April, because April is a very significant month in a student's life, particularly this year. This is the month where all of the fees, if they have any fees, are due, as well as this is the month where they tend to run out of money. Now, we all have been 17 or 18 years old, and we probably got to the end of the year and made a call home to our parents to say, you know what, I just need another couple of $100 before I come home for the summer. Well, for our students, that's not an option. And even for their families, it may or may not have been an option because, again, they're first generation college students. So some of their families are not working. Some of them experienced death as a result of COVID-19, which changed the entire economic situation within their household. So today, I just want to very quickly let you know that we have an emergency student assistance fund. $30 makes the difference in one of our students' lives. $30 will make sure a student is eating breakfast for 30 days because they're going somewhere and they are getting $1 breakfast if they possibly can. $50 makes a difference in our students' lives because this ensures that they have not just breakfast, but breakfast and lunch. Making sure that our students survive for not only as a result of COVID-19, but of course, it exacerbated the problem that already existed. Many of our students who typically have money over the summer, last summer, 2020, those jobs suddenly disappeared. Many companies did not provide internships that they were accustomed to. Many of them never left to go home because they were unsure about the situation at home, be it family members with COVID or their ability, quite frankly, to get back to school. So when you give to the Emergency Student Assistance Fund, it is the most basic of needs we are attempting to meet. Do I always want those checks with lots and lots of zeros behind so I can ensure more students are getting scholarships? Absolutely. But also the simple $50, $25, whatever it is that you can provide to our student assistance fund enables us to make sure that our students are not worried about the most basic needs, our rights as people to have food, to have housing, and to have shelter. So thank you so very much for giving me these few minutes, Pat. I really appreciate it. I know Pat is going to tell you now more about the partnership that we will establish with UNCF. And I love talking about UNCF, so I'll come back and talk whenever you choose. But, and I'll provide as much information as you want. But this morning, I just wanted to provide a small and short teaser to encourage you to make a sacrifice to $25, $30, whatever it is. And today, as we sit here in the midst of still COVID, we are seeing our way out, but it's not over. We don't know what tomorrow will bring. We know who has tomorrow. We know who holds tomorrow, but we don't know what tomorrow will bring. So any sacrifice you make today will impact a student's life tomorrow. Thank you. And thank you so much, Pat, for having me on.
Gwen, this conversation is very dear to my heart. And as you indicated, it is timely. So it's not robbery that we do it today. So audience, sisters, please go to thesistercovenant.com, go to our website and click on charitable giving. We have our beautiful merchandise. You can go ahead and purchase that. And $10 over 100 will go directly to UNCF. But if you can't do that and you choose to just give, go straight to charitable giving. Click that button and all of those dollars, whatever you designate for this emergency fund, will go directly. I'll get that over to Gwen, and that'll be coming from the Sister Covenant. You will hear in the next couple of weeks, how we're going to formalize a formal partnership. And down the road, our vision is to even have a Sister Covenant scholarship that will be designated for students. But right now, the need is great. We know a lot of young people are graduating this weekend, next weekend. My son from an HBCU, I'm a proud mom of a Hampton, graduating 3 weeks from today on Mother's Day. And we will celebrate him. But there are some students that don't have this kind of resource. Our dollars can make the difference as to whether they can graduate in the next couple of weeks. So we humbly ask you to do that. We've run a little long. I'm unapologetic for it. Join us on the other end for the After Sister Circle conversation. Gwen, hopefully you can jump over on that conversation as we unpack Tanya Grace's PK years. But as always, my sisters, be bold, be brilliant, be brave and beautiful, and be blessed.
Thank you.